Welcome back. I'm your host with Valley Varieties with April Davidson. My guest today is Terese Polgrean.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to my show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We have some beautiful setups here, and they are some succulents, obviously. And she's going to share a little bit about her succulents. So, what would you like to share today?
Well, we're called Prickly Pear Farm, and we started, growing and propagating our own succulents, my husband and I, about 20 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
As a backyard hobby. And he works on the coast, so he would bring home succulents. Believe it or not, I can't keep any other kind of plant alive, so that was kind of the catalyst for.
Can't either.
I can't. If it's a house plant, if it's an outdoor plant, I can't keep it alive. So, kind of as to help me grow something, and maybe feel good about myself, he started bringing home succulents from the coast, and I just became addicted. So that was about 20 years ago, and we started growing and propagating our own. And then about 2011, we started making our own containers. They're called hypertufa. It's kind of like a concrete container that does really well with succulents. They're very porous, and the succulents don't get a lot of root rot in there. They drain pretty well. Anyway, so I actually started selling those. Well, I started making them for friends and family and for special occasions and centerpieces, and then started selling them in a shop in Old Town Clovis called Vintage on 4th.
Okay.
And then it kind of just grew from there. They started becoming a little bit more popular, and then when the drought was happening and people were looking for a better alternative to water-wise plants, succulents was a really good choice. And I think that's kind of what helped people realize that, they're not just jades. They're not just, in the Central Valley, it's hard to find succulents besides jade and cactus. And so people started going to the coast and bringing them back, and then they just become kind of addicted. You start collecting them. They're very collectible. And
they're beautiful.
Oh, they're absolutely
so many
gorgeous.
Different colors.
Yeah, and so then it just kind of went from there. We started doing events around town, and then about 4 years ago, my brother and I actually decided that we wanted to open or start building a nursery that was just drought tolerant, mostly succulent. So we're still working on it, but during that time, we started doing more arrangements. We started branching out, doing shows around town. We're now we sell the single plants by themselves as well as arrangements. We're now doing yard installations. People that want drought tolerant in their yards. We'll do container gardening where people just want us to come over and just pot up their containers.
Okay.
And we are also in a shop in Old Town Clovis called the Foundry Cooperative, where there's 8 local makers. So we're part of that co-op, and you can find our arrangements there. So it kind of just started organically, and now it's kind of turned into this.
Grown and grown
well,
and grown.
And everyone wants succulents now, and so the demand for them is it's pretty great. And it's hard to keep up with.
I hear. And what are you doing? You're doing parties and workshops?
So at the Foundry Cooperative, we do workshops, and we also do private workshops. We're mobile, so we also come to you. There's a lot of like girls night out parties where they want to learn how to do something, but also have some wine and snacks and have a bunch of girlfriends together. So those are really popular. We just had a Galentine's party up at Basilwood Farm, and there was quite a few women that showed up for that. And so it's just a fun get together. You learn how to either do a centerpiece, or we do living wreaths where we put succulents on to with moss, and we add them to a grapevine wreath, and or we just have classes where we just teach people about how to care for succulents, how to propagate them, how to grow them in the Central Valley, because there are some problems that you kind of have to work out if you want to grow them and have them thrive in the Central Valley.
I might kill them too.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, there's just a couple of things that you really have to learn in order to help them thrive. You can't, our Our sun is a lot different than the sun on the coast. So a lot of people go to the coast and they get a succulent and come back to the Central Valley and throw it out in the sun and it's dead in a couple of days and they can't figure out why. And so we help a lot of people do that. And I think that's kind of really what sets us apart from other, succulent businesses or just plants in general. Is we spend a lot of time teaching people how to grow them, where to put them, what not to do, what to do, and also how to propagate and grow their own. And that's kind of what some of our workshops are. But my daughter does, we're at 3 farmers markets around town.
That's great.
And she spends a lot of time answering a lot of questions, and people reach out on social media and have just tons of questions, or they'll send pictures, what's wrong with my succulent.
Okay.
And so we spend a lot of time just educating, there's a lot of myths out there about what you're supposed to do and what you can do, and so we just help people.
And so I heard that you can actually take a piece of a succulent and
propagate
grow.
Yes.
Yes.
Pretty much all parts of the succulent. You can regrow the stem after you've cut it off. You can take all its leaves off and put those.
Amazing.
They'll all grow new plants. There's some exceptions. Some are a little bit harder than others, but they're just the most amazing plant as far as propagating themselves. You can pretty much use all parts. You can cut the head off and start a brand new plant.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah. Wow, okay. And so how did you come up with your name?
Our name actually, so when my husband and I were growing and I was becoming obsessed with succulents, about 15 years ago, I wanted to open a nursery back then. And everyone was like, no, because they're not, first of all, you can't find them in the Central Valley. They're not going to grow in the Central Valley, and why would you do that? Nobody even knows what a succulent is.
Okay.
And so I talked to my dad, my dad is retired from UC Davis, and he was a plant breeder for 40 years for UC Davis.
Gosh.
And so he knows so much about plants. So I talked to my dad a lot about plants. And so I talked to him about, hey, I want to open this nursery, and we talked about, the pros and cons, and he came up with a name. He said, if you open a nursery, you should call it Prickly Pear.
Oh.
And I loved the name.
I love the name too.
And so when my brother and I, about 4 years ago, really decided, hey, we're really going to do this, and we're going to start building it. We were unofficially Prickly Pear up until we decided to start building the nursery, and then we added farm so that it would kind of seem like it was a place where you could actually go and we're growing, the plants there. So
I love
Prickly
the
Pear
name.
Farm, yeah, it kind of came from my dad. It's funny because he doesn't remember that story.
Well,
but.
especially because he was growing plants his whole life, and then you got into it.
Yeah.
And then
but you would think that I would learn how to grow regular plants. That didn't
you can't keep
I
them
didn't.
alive.
That part didn't wear off. Didn't wear off on me.
Okay, well, I think you're doing a great job keeping these ones
thanks.
alive. So, what are your goals?
So our goal is to get our nursery open. Our goal is to get it open this year. I don't know when. There's 3 of us basically. Hammering every piece of wood into the nursery, and so it's a long process. And now we're, time is a factor. So we're, my daughter and I really are the only ones that do the arrangements, and she's doing the farmers markets, and we're doing events, and so we're kind of stretched. So, but that is our goal, is to eventually get that open and have a full functional, nursery, and have workshops and stuff out there too. So
that would be great.
Yeah, it would be.
Have you
someday I'll get there.
Have you hit any challenges?
As far as the business, no. It's actually, the demand has just been, we have some challenges as far as time.
Yeah, you're busy.
We're busy. We don't have enough time to do everything that we would like to do, or participate in everything that we would like to do. The other challenge is just our weather.
Right.
We don't have the optimum, weather for growing succulents like the coast. And succulents actually didn't originate on the coast. They're actually desert plants. They came from the desert. That's how they've adapted, and why they're called the camel of the plant world. That's why they've adapted to hold water. It's because they're desert plants. And so we live, we're in a desert. So they grow here, but they can't take our hot afternoon sun in the summertime, really once it gets over 80 degrees. And then we have periods of frost. And so those are the challenges. But again, it's just about education and learning what to do, where to put your plants so they can survive all year. I always get through the summer and just kind of go, phew, we got through another summer and not everything died. So we're doing okay. But it really is easy. Once you learn the basics, then they'll thrive all year. But it's for people that are brand new, it's hard because you want to put them outside in full sun because that's what it says on the tag where you bought your plant from the nursery. Right. But it's not Central Valley full sun. Yeah. It's coastal
so
full
it just
sun,
says put it out in the sun, and it doesn't give any other explanation.
Right. Full sun.
Full sun.
Water when it's dry.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit more to it than that.
There is a little bit more than.
So that's our goal is to help educate people, and so that people are so passionate about succulents and they get so upset, when they die. And so, we kind of take it personally that we want to really teach everyone how to make them thrive because they're just, this is all Central Valley. So all the colors, they do really well, but you just gotta learn some stuff and put down the spray bottles. We don't. No spraying your succulents.
Yeah.
I know. That's another thing. I know. And put them outside. Don't put them in your house.
So what's your favorite part?
I think that it's talking about it. I could literally
You're just so passionate
about succulents all the time. And anybody that even starts, I'm just like, I'm all in. I'm all in. We're just going to talk about it for an hour. I gave a class. It was a succulent 101 class. It was supposed to be an hour, and I think I went 45 minutes past it. Didn't even realize. I could talk about it all the time. I'm just so passionate about them because they are just, I call them the toughest, most sensitive plants around. They're so tough, but they are sensitive. So, but they're amazing, and they're so beautiful. And I think people, that once you start in on succulents, it becomes an addiction. And I talk about, people that are succulent addicts all the time come up to, and they're like, you're like my plant pusher. I'm like,
nothing wrong with pushing plants. And so you said that you used to have a job.
I did.
A full-time job.
Oh, I did. My background is, retail management. I was in retail for, I won't tell you my age, but 30 years. And this last year I finally made the leap of I had to leave.
Leap of faith.
And it's kind of scary, but
you've been very successful.
So far, I haven't had to go back.
That's amazing. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then I just hired my daughter on full time, so I pulled her away from her job as well.
Wow.
So.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just, if we're always available for questions, for troubleshooting. Mostly you can get us through social media, Instagram or Facebook, or you can visit us at the Foundry Cooperative. But and that's all just free information. So if you ever have an issue with your plant, or you're not understanding what's going on, or you just want to get into it and just want to know the basics, we're always free to help with that kind of information. So just reach out.
That's great. And all your contact information is on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
You're
Terese,
very
for
welcome.
coming today. I hope you come back again.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, April.
We'll be right back.